We're going to watch two videos. We're going to watch two quick videos that sent to me on Twitter. The exchange. If this exchange took place and represented folks from a wildly different set of departments, that would be one thing. We've got the Oakland interim police chief, and we've got a public defender from San Francisco having this really awkward conversation. And we're going to talk about it. Let's get into it. Here we go.
The crimes that are plaguing the city that you mentioned, the property crimes, the burglaries, the car thefts, where people run cars into buildings, breaking into cars. You're describing those as misdemeanor crimes?
Well, there was a change in the law, Prop 47.
Yep.
If we walk outside right now, we catch a person breaking into a car. If they have ID, we have to give them a citation and let them go. It used to be a felony offense. It's not anymore.
That's weird because I'm a public defender in San Francisco and all the cases I get are.
So clearly this is our police chief. This is our fearless police chief here. And our other dude is public defender in city of San Francisco. So we've got different cities, but all right. Alameda County, we're going to go for it.
I'm a public defender in San Francisco and all the cases I get are felony car burglaries where people are breaking into windows. So I'm just trying to figure out, what is different between San Francisco Police Department, who's referring these as felony car burglaries, and the Oakland Police Department that is citing people for these.
I think the law changed that. Didn't that happen in 2016 where certain crimes that were wobblers got asking over to the
a question
category?
This is the police chief.
Crimes like pet property, crimes like burglary, the retail, the grand larceny theft number was risen from.
Sure. Petty thefts under 950.
I think what anybody can't dispute, though,
the second degree burglaries, but bipping a window and rolling and pulling the things out of them, any value is a felony. I'm trying to figure out why your view is that these are citable, or that someone running a car into a building to try to burglarize it might be a misdemeanor, or that even car thefts are misdemeanors, because maybe for the most part they're not.
Okay.
Right? They're not.
Okay. So maybe I misspoke.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's get a little bit more background information here. Let's watch this one. Hey, this one's got to be better, right?
Bipping. People are breaking in our cars. When I go to restaurants that my friends own, and they complain about the customers' cars getting broken into. And so we've had to take that crime serious as well. And so you've seen maybe in the media that the police department, we're expanding to make sure that we have a strategy to deal with the auto burglaries as well. So like I worked in homicide for 10 years and I've seen and talked to people who've been shot. Next day, they get some medicine, they're back on the street. I've talked to business owners who've lost their businesses because of theft, and they are traumatized. Everything they've worked for years is just gone because of theft. And so we have to it's property crime, but we have to take it serious because of the devastating impact that it's having on everybody in the city. The businesses are closing down. Not all of them, but a lot of business owners are complaining about this to us. And so we have to be responsive to that. But as police, when we start focusing on these crimes, because the underlying offense are misdemeanors, our response to these crimes, when we go out here and we carry ourselves and we do these operations, we have to be mindful of that. Like we are focusing on the underlying crime is a misdemeanor.
So if that wasn't the police chief up there, if that was, I don't know, somebody other than the interim police chief, I would say, okay, somebody's got their information incorrect, but you've literally got somebody that's in the entity, got public defender saying, hey, you're the police chief. Why aren't you arresting these people and going after them? Why are you citing them with a misdemeanor? And the police chief is basically saying, well, that's what the law says. And then they get into a little bit of an argument, and you could see that argument with the public defender. And he was like, that's weird, because that's a really nice way of saying, you know what? We might just have a little bit of a different opinion of what's a felony and what's a misdemeanor. And that is a lot of what is going into this. The fact that you have taken a lot of criminal actions that were once punishable by felonies, and now you've reduced them down to a misdemeanor. And even the police chiefs now are confused. Is it a misdemeanor? Is it a felony? I'm not really sure. And the public defender gets right into it and he goes, when you drive a car into a business, that's typically a felony. And what the San Francisco public defender is saying, Jesse Hasaya, no, that's commissioner. He is a public defender. He's also a commissioner. He is saying in San Francisco, these are felonies, but it doesn't really matter in either one of these entities, does it? Because they're not really prosecuting these folks. Number one, we're not really arresting them. And number two, we're certainly not prosecuting these kind of folks for the criminal actions that they're doing, because bipping has become just a known term. And it's something that is just happening on the regular. And it's impacting not just the East Bay area. It's not just the Bay Area, San Francisco, Oakland. Bipping is working its way into society as a whole. And that's because you've got these areas where this kind of stuff starts off, and you've got aggressive gangs basically running it. Somebody steals a car, they go out and they start stealing from people, right? Bashing windows, grabbing stuff, bipping, classic case of bipping, which was once a felony, but now it's not. So you catch somebody, bashing a window and grabbing stuff, that's a misdemeanor. Hey, crime does pay. Because you know what? You lowered the standards of what was once a felony now to a misdemeanor. And so even within the police department, you've got a chief. Granted, it's an interim chief, but we had interim chief Diaz for a couple of years. Sometimes it takes them a long time to work out that whole policing thing. So this is who they've got running the Oakland Police Department. And he's like, yeah, those are not felony arrests we're making. Bipping is not a felony arrest. And the public defender is saying, oh, wait a minute, hold on. Okay, in San Fran. So even with side-by-side cities, you've got these two different viewpoints on what should be a crime and what shouldn't. Meantime, the criminals are just going ham. So while we've got people trying to figure, is that a felony? I thought that was a misdemeanor. Let them go. Or they don't, half the time we just don't even catch them, right? You've got all this video of surveillance of stuff that's happened. That's not worth a darn thing, because even in these cities, if you caught these folks, okay, you give them a misdemeanor. Who cares? That's like a parking ticket. It's going to have zero impact on that criminal action moving forward, right? Say you prosecute them as a felony. How many of those felonies are just going to get tossed? Just not even going to make its way to the district attorney who's going to handle that kind of thing, right? We're not even really dealing with that, because everything that used to be a felony is now a misdemeanor. And the interim police chief is like, well, I think the laws back in 2016 changed. And they did. A lot of those did change. But you can see, even with the highest level of law enforcement, there's this idea of, well, we just got to, it's catch and release. We just got, we're kind of arresting them. But if you've got a police force in San Francisco that's down 600 cops, are you going to really be going after people for the whole bipping thing? Okay. But so where I think the public defender comes in is he's like, these are the cases that I'm working on, and they're felonies. And he mentioned, ramming a car into a business. That carries with it a certain level of extra damage and whatnot. I think those cases are definitely felonies. I mean, anytime you've got major destruction of property with intent to rob, whatever, bashing out a window, grabbing somebody's bag from the back, I think should still be a felony, because that's the only way, if there's repercussions and you got to do a little jail time, that it's going to put a kibosh on some of this stuff. But that's not the direction we're going. And so even in levels of law enforcement where the chief has got a mic in front of him and he's like, we're just going to release him because it's a misdemeanor, you're just kind of left with who is running the zoo? Where's the zookeeper in all this? There's no zookeeper. There's no set of rules. that's kind of the point of my podcast, is even with folks that do this on a day-to-day basis, that's like me as a real estate managing broker trying to figure out, well, I mean, you could use an attorney to close the deal, or you could use an escrow company, or you could use a construction company, or you could use a massage therapist. Maybe one of those folks would kind of get this job done. I don't really know. The law's changed. Figure it out. Meanwhile, you've got transactions just blowing up left and right. Those are my explosion sounds, right? And we don't have that situation in real estate because there's a set of laws and we follow them and we get deals closed. Law enforcement, wildly different. We've got this notion of, you can't do this and you can't do that. One of my upcoming podcasts will be on Seattle. Seattle Police Department got kind of hammered because during CHOP, they were running some subterfuge. Is that the right word? They were throwing out some information and just kind of tricking up Antifa, right? Well, the higher ups didn't like that. So no more shenanigans by the Seattle Police Department. You've got to go through, you got to have permission from your supervisor. Basically, what we're talking about is Seattle Police Department throwing out some intel that may or may not be correct. And, it's kind of like caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. If you're taking in information and you're Antifa, you should probably check it out. It's the way I see it. Let the cops do their thing. They're supposed to be the good guys, right? They did some shenanigans to throw off Antifa. I was kind of right in the middle of just getting my feet on the ground when CHOP was going. And I was like, what is going on here? Who are all these players? What is happening? And there was that storyline in the back of my head, which was happening in real time, was that the police were sending out these messages of, hey, got a whole bunch of Proud Boys coming to town, or massive biker gangs coming to town. They're going to wipe you guys out. I was okay with that. They never showed. But it was interesting hearing how the different groups were talking about that and then saying, they're not going to come, all this ridiculous stuff. And now the cops can't, there's one more tool that's been taken away from them. So what do we have left for policing? What do we have left for enforcement? I mean, well done, San Francisco and Oakland. Your utopian socialist paradise has been collectively, you guys have constructed it, because even your own police and your attorneys, public defendants, they don't really know what direction things are going. And then by far, your district attorneys you've gone down this road of, hiring folks that are not concerned with crime at all. And then you get all this criminal activity going and, there's your utopia. There's your utopia. You've created such a utopia that the chief of police doesn't even really know where all this sits. Can't really explain it. He's got a public defender, which public defenders typically, they either love it because that's what they want to do. They want to help people out. They want to defend the innocent until proven guilty, or they want to take it and go, become a district attorney. They want to use it for their career stepping stone. But the public defendants, they get a million cases, basically got to settle them all. I mean, the whole thing is just this herky-jerky legal system that is supposed to be so racist and all this crazy stuff. We need to shut it down, but we don't have any other options. It's gotten so bad that even at the very highest levels, while there's a camera going and a mic recording, hey, this is weird, but in San Fran, those are felonies. Bipping is a felony. Well, the law changed. You saw that that exchange and you're like, oh my gosh, that was my reaction. Was, okay, any which way this goes. And we know in Oakland, you're not basically going after the bipping. So no wonder this stuff is happening just at escalated levels. No wonder in Oakland and in San Fran and Bay Area in general, the big way to combat this is basically, I always relate it to the thing that I had happen when I was growing up. There was this big feminist deal, right? because feminism was actually a thing back then. There were actually people fighting for female rights. Now that we got this whole trans thing, I think the females just got, what happened? What happened to feminism? What happened to actually protecting women's rights? But the whole thing back then was, hey, you wouldn't have had that happen to you if you weren't wearing the cute outfit. If you weren't wearing that cute outfit, that act wouldn't have happened to you. And instead, what it is today in Oakland is don't leave anything in your car. Can't leave anything in your back seat. That just opens it up for you to get bipped. And then it's your fault. Like that short skirt. That's the whole reason that this criminal action happened to you. I'm really sorry, but the whole bipping thing. And so that is literally what San Francisco and Oakland have gone to, which is let's get some more ambassadors that can tell people coming to the airport, renting rental cars that, hey, don't leave your shit in your car because it's going to get jacked. Right? Tell you my own jacking story. Oh, I left my truck here at the office for a while, few nights. Catalytic converter got taken. Oh, brutal. Went to start up my car, my truck. And if you've heard a straight V8 without a muffler system, it's pretty loud. It's pretty loud. And so it was. This was on a Sunday. My girlfriend and I walked from my house here to the office, cranked up the car. And, oh, yeah. You know, I let it run for like a second. And I'm like, oh, the catalytic converter is gone. Got underneath the truck. And you don't even have to hardly bend down because my truck is so high and it's stock. And you're just like, yeah, well, that's where the catalytic converter once was. Straight cut back where the muffler is all the way back because it's like a long bed. It's not there anymore. So criminal action. It's happening everywhere, right? It's happening everywhere. But when you've got entities like this who are responsible for our laws, responsible for the law in Oakland, and they're not really convinced that, hey, this is a felony, this is a misdemeanor. And that has so much to do with why we have these people running the streets doing their thing, because lesser level crimes are no longer felonies and they feel no impact. There's nothing out there to stop them. These jackasses that took my catalytic converter. I should have known on my converter. It's an old truck. Big catalytic converter. It's got 300,000 miles on it. It's the original catalytic converter. Somebody hit the gold mine on that one, right? It's got all that metal in there. I remember reading that old school trucks are what they're going after. My truck's usually always at my house and I leave it for a few days. I left it for a few weekends in a row because I was kind of down covering some of those protests. And then I grabbed it this last one. And, yeah, it sounds like a stock car at the line. Not a good sound on the streets of Bellevue, right? Driving a big 4x4 is not acceptable anyway. But, so I drove it real slow home. That was fun. Going past bicyclists. What's wrong with that guy? No muffler? Yeah, no catalytic converter. Still got a muffler. It's just not hooked up. So this kind of thing is at the absolute heart of why you've got criminal activity just going through the roof, because you don't know whether you're coming or going or what direction you're in or what one county is doing, what's acceptable in another. I've got the same thing down in Oregon. You will literally hear reports of, oh, aren't we in Multnomah County? We're not in Multnomah County. And the criminals will be like, gosh, darn it. I thought we were in Multnomah County. Why did we went across the, they're not looking at a map when they're committing a crime. They're just thinking, I did this over here. I got to, they want to get to Multnomah County because that's where the, district attorney is the easiest, the softest on crime. Even though Mike Schmidt says that I'm doing everything I can, but it's not my fault. It's those police fault. Well, here we've got the police and public defender having this really awkward back and forth. I thought you thought this was this. And it's an indication of the overall system just absolutely not working, right? Because if it was working, we'd arrest these bippers, put them in jail, and, like we used to, but we're not doing that. Now we don't even know whether it's a felony or a misdemeanor, or do we throw them in jail? Do we release them? Is there bond? I read another story that the LA bond system it's working. Yeah. We're not, that whole thing is just so ridiculous. You're looking at one stat going, nobody's jumping bond. Well, it's because you're not bonding anybody out. Nobody's in jail. There's nobody to bond out. Of course not. So it's stuff like this that kind of makes me think, all right, you've got to have some major revisions, which will happen. But it's going to take a long time because that's got to go full circle, right? And we aren't even anywhere close to that. We are right now just saying, don't wear that skirt because you might get in trouble. We're literally saying, don't leave the stuff in your car because your car is going to get broken into and you're going to be robbed. How comforting is that? So we are, when we talk about going full circle, we're at the very beginning identifying, okay, all right, well, yeah, what got us to here means that we have a lot more to go to get anywhere back to normal. And maybe this is just where Oakland and San Francisco sits for a while, right? I mean, maybe they're happy with this. This is what they voted in. This is what they wanted. Got the same exact stuff going on here in Seattle, same stuff going in Portland, same stuff in LA, same stuff in New York City. It's the exact same stuff. It's a bunch of policy that people thought, well, we're going to try and help out those that are, most frequently arrested, and we're going to make sure that they don't get arrested. Well, you've done that. How's that working out? Yeah. To the point where nobody even knows. What are we doing for criminal actions these days? Felony? Misdemeanor? What is it? Don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's literally where this one sits. All right. Don't forget to enter in. There should be a leak, not a leak, but a link on this video for our giveaway. We're giving away these couple of cups. Just got to do a quick review and then you take a screenshot of it, upload that, and we'll be pulling these are actually coming off my desk and they're going out to you guys. So I really like the Socialism Works for those who don't. That's going to be our first major giveaway. And I hope you win one because they're kind of cool. It's kind of fun. I like holding that up and reading it because, yeah, it absolutely makes sense. Socialism works for those who don't. San Francisco, how's that socialism working out? Is it even a crime? Who knows? Thanks so much for being here. We'll catch up with you on the next one. Bye for now.